Welcome back to the Road to Inspire. I'm your host, Shanice Hemphill, and I am happy to be back. I wanted to share an answer to a question. Is it safe for solo travelers to go to Ecuador? Is it safe in Ecuador for solo travelers? For Black solo travelers? For women, Black women solo travelers? Well, I can only give you from my experience. For me, it was completely safe for the 7 weeks that I was there. However, there are some moments that I did feel unsafe. But for the majority of the time, I felt very safe. Now, I will say that going to my first stop, which was Quito, Ecuador, felt very safe going because I only spent one night there, and that was to catch my next flight to Cuenca, Ecuador the next day. And from the airport to my hotel, I felt totally safe, no problem. And this was not a Hilton hotel or any of those big US brand hotels. This was just a hotel that was the nearest to the airport, and that was pretty nice and cheap. So I felt safe. I didn't have any problems when I landed in Cuenca, Ecuador. Didn't have any problems, felt totally safe. It gets dark early in Cuenca, Ecuador. So 6 p.m. it starts getting dark. So people are still out. They're still walking around, kind of like the vibe that you get when you're in New York, where even though it's dark, there's still a lot of people on the streets, at least until about 8:30, 9 o'clock, something like that, when everything closes. So for the most part in Cuenca, Ecuador, I felt completely safe walking around when it got dark because there were still a lot of people on the streets. And Cuenca is very developed, is a good place for from my experience, female solo travelers. I had no problems. The only time that I can feel that it was like maybe a questionable area, or that it was like, okay, I think I should leave now. It was, and I forgot the name of the place, but it's this market where they have produce like fruits and vegetables. So all of the people are selling those different fruits and vegetables, but the police were also at the door. But I did feel so many angles of eyes looking at me, watching me, and like kids saying things. I didn't even know what they were saying, but kids saying things, people looking at me, saying whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, it's time for me to go. So that was about the only time. And it was like I came, I guess, at a time that they were about to close because the police were at the door trying to make sure everybody was getting out. Now, with that in mind, with a strong police presence there, I didn't see, that it was a problem or that any problems occurred. So I safely walked to that place and I safely walked out. So I didn't feel particularly unsafe or that my life was in danger, but I did feel that, okay, this is not the place for me to be alone, especially when I don't speak the language. And then I later found out from a nice police officer, John, who I met in Cuenca, Ecuador, when I was waiting. And this was during when they had a lockdown because of COVID. But I met him. He was one of the police officers who was willing to wait for me to hail a taxi because the city was on a curfew. He waited for me to get safely into a taxi, and then he volunteered his time to show me around the city. And he did mention that that's probably not the best place to go because they're pretty fast. He said they move pretty fast and they do pickpocket. So yeah, I just happened to get out of there safely, I guess. But anyway, if you are gonna go there, keep your stuff close to you. Don't have anything out, and be with somebody who speaks the language, okay? So I personally don't speak the language, but that was the only situation or only time that I would say that I felt particularly uneasy. Now, any other time, no problem. So I spent 5 weeks in Cuenca, Ecuador. Went to Guayaquil. I thought I was going to go to Guayaquil for maybe a couple weeks, maybe my last 2 weeks. I was in Guayaquil for less than 24 hours, and I will tell you why. I went to Guayaquil and thought, okay, I'll stay downtown at this beautiful hotel, really nice, huge hotel. When I got to the south side of Guayaquil, which is where the bus station kind of comes in at, I was questioning things. I was waiting. You know how you're driving in a taxi and you're waiting for things to change, maybe like this scene to change, maybe like this community or neighborhood to change to where things start to, you know, look a little bit better. That didn't happen. So I get to the hotel, I check in. Hotel is super quiet, it's big, it's very nice still. A lot of beautiful artwork, which is one of the things. It had over a 4.5-star review, literally. I go outside, walking around the area. As I'm walking around, I do not feel safe. I do not feel safe. So I survey the area. I'm like, there's a lot of, you know, homeless people out. It smells like urine in this particular area that I'm walking past. This man is it was a lot to take in. So in the Facebook group that I was a part of at the time, I connected with some people who was like, no, who told you to go there and why did you go there? And I'm like, well, the star rating said, no, that is not where you go. You need to go to the north side of Guayaquil and go to this particular area. Well, at the time, I didn't know that, okay? I thought that I can just, well, I thought wrong. Okay, just put it that way. I thought wrong. So, however, I was there one day, literally, and caught the bus the next day to Manta. So I was reluctant to even go to Manta. Didn't really have any intentions on going there, but the bus ride to Manta, no, was it to Manta? No, the bus ride from Cuenca to Guayaquil was beautiful. The bus ride, I think it was, well, let's just not talk about the bus ride because now I can't remember. But anyway, going in one of those directions, it was beautiful. But anyway, I think it was from Cuenca to Guayaquil, though. That was a beautiful bus ride. And I don't do buses, but if I was going to say bus or plane, I would definitely take the bus ride because it was absolutely the most beautiful, peaceful, calming, majestic bus ride that I had ever been on. The views are amazing. But anyway, back to where I didn't feel safe. When I arrived in Manta, I said, okay. I stayed as recommended near the mall. So the Airbnb that I stayed at was 4 blocks from the mall. Now, there were times that I did feel unsafe, and those times were walking home from the mall, keeping in mind that it gets dark at like 6 o'clock. Okay, walking home from the mall, it's only 4 blocks. I'm constantly looking over my shoulders. It's just that Manta is underdeveloped. So even though there are nice places to stay there, they are developing, okay, but there's still a lot of underdevelopment, okay. So there were times that I did not feel safe in Manta, and pretty much most of the time that I was in Ecuador, the only times that I didn't feel safe were the times that I were in Manta. And if you even go back and take a look at the time that I was literally had to kind of figure out a way not to get put out of a taxi. Yes, the taxi cab driver tried to put me out, but I didn't move. But anyway, if you even look at that video, that was in Manta, Ecuador. However, there were times, like I said, when I was walking from the mall, and it was only 6 o'clock. It had just gotten dark. So you can still, I mean, I would literally have somebody on, video phone with me, to talk with me just to keep me company. And so there were times while I went to Ecuador that I did feel unsafe. Even walking outside of my Airbnb at one time, there were these dogs gnawing on some piece of meat, and these were big, huge, husky dogs. And I'm like, how long is this gonna last? And it was like the next day they were there too. And it's like, I literally had to, and this was in broad daylight, I had to call a taxi just to go to the mall. Or actually, there was a time where my Airbnb host even took me to the mall because they were really nice. But I didn't have the courage to stand up against two husky pit bulls or whatever kind of dogs they are. I'm not a dog owner, so I don't know. But anyway, they looked vicious. They were gnawing on a piece of meat or whatever it was. And they were roaming the streets in front of my Airbnb. So that was actually, they did that for like 2, maybe 3 days. After that, I just gave up and just said, you know what? I'm just going to get a taxi going everywhere because I can't walk. This is not a walkable city. This is not a walkable place. The other time was when I was at another Airbnb in Manta, Ecuador. And I was like, okay, a friend that I met had told me, you can walk outside and hail a taxi from there. Or if you have the desire to walk down this particular road, it'll take you to the main road. And I'm like, okay. But I started walking down that road and things didn't look okay. Again, Manta's pretty underdeveloped. So you can be staying in a nice Airbnb, but down the road, there's, huge, like maybe 1/4 of a mile of vacant lot with stuff dumped in it, whatever. But as I was walking, I felt that this don't feel right. I'm just going to turn back around and go back to safety. And I had to call a taxi. So those were the times that I felt unsafe while in Ecuador. Other than that, even, and usually those times were, like I said, in Manta. However, I know that there are other people who stay in Manta. This is my experience. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel comfortable. Would I go back and visit? Absolutely not. I enjoyed all of my time in Ecuador. Positive experiences. If you check out the rest of my videos, thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully it helps you travel wisely and get outside of your 4 walls and experience life, whether it be in Ecuador or some other place. So thank you for 101 subscribers. Thank you so much. And if you haven't subscribed, click the link and subscribe because there's more to come. Thank you. Bye-bye.